This Jeep is solid. With the roof off, you've got the sun beaming on you, giving you that good vitamin D. But the truck's payload simply thrashes the competition. I mean, in that bed back there, you can literally stack on 1,800 pounds, just thrashing over and over the competition. You could stack literally a ton of bodies back there. But that doesn't even take away from the fact that this is a real truck. An amazing four-wheel drive. Look at this 4x4 action going right now. Bam, four-wheel drive engaged. Oh wait, there's a handbrake. Here's why the 2020 Jeep Gladiator Sport is a convertible truck and a 4x4. Before we talk about this Jeep, we've got to talk about the other legendary heroes that have existed before this Jeep, such as the Hummer H1. That's right, the Hummer H1. No relation to the Jeep, but it does have the similar look of this Jeep. See these four doors? See that lovely bed back there? That's right, Hummer did it first. Maybe they did or maybe they didn't, I don't know, but it definitely looks like there's a relationship going on here. So one could argue maybe Hummer did it first, or maybe it was the Jeep. I don't really know, but I can tell you something. You could definitely see the lineage of Jeep in this Jeep's eyes. Did you see right there? There's a little Jeep inside of the eye or the headlamp of this Jeep. Which brings me back to the point. In 1963, Jeep actually contemplated something called a Gladiator. That's right, the use of the Gladiator comes all the way back from 1963 for Jeep. But it doesn't stop there. They also had something called the Comanche. It was a 4x4 pickup truck of the 90s and I think maybe in the 80s too. They definitely had some trucks prior to this. It's all family, guys. So all Gladiators are warriors, and you can obviously see it in the eyes of this thing, right? Because I just showed you there's a little hidden Easter egg of a Jeep in there. But getting really serious, all Gladiators are 4x4s. All Gladiators are convertibles. And all Gladiators are trucks. That's right. This is actually a truck. Not to be confused with the Wrangler Jeep. Well, maybe a little. Let me bring you into a little secret here. This iconic Jeep face right here, which I've obviously covered in my previous video, is their logo, correct? But did you know on the Gladiator, it is slightly different. Besides this situation right here with the headlight and that little Easter egg, these vents are actually wider than the Wrangler. Do you know why that is? The vents are designed to suck in more air because this Jeep truck convertible 4x4 actually needs more air to be able to tow. Bet you didn't know that about this. So this 285 horsepower, 260 pound-feet of torque Jeep truck convertible 4x4 is all functional, as I've mentioned in other videos. I don't know if you've been watching them. You see this front right here? We've talked about the fact that this is the logo for the Jeep. But how about opening this hood? For those of you who don't know, the hood release is actually inside the car. Right here, right? Actually, there is no hood release inside the car. There's not. Because the front is functional, like I've told you in other videos. So why don't you follow me over here? You see this right here? It's a functional latch. That's right, a functional latch. Yeah, it's functional. There you go, that's how you get one off. You see the second one right here? Yeah, it's a functional latch. There you go, got the other one off. Now wait till you see this engine. So using all that man strength, I'm propping up this hood right here, which is a functional hood. No gas shocks, again, just this right here. Gotta love Jeep. If you come in real close, they tell you where to stick the prop. That's right. They give you a little education. Moving on to the meat of this. This is a 3.6 liter engine. Glorious V6 engine right here. It's a little different than what they used to put in these things, which were inline sixes for the Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo back in the day. I know because I used to have one. A V6 might be a little bit better, arguably, but that straight six was pretty smooth. Toyota Tacoma, Chevy Colorado, Ford whatever. You know what I'm talking about already. I'm talking about its rivals. That's right, this truck has some rivals. I really wouldn't call them rivals because they really can't compete with a convertible 4x4 that you can use every day to go to the beach and go get groceries and also go off-roading, but they are the rivals. And guess what? This Jeep actually competes very well. You know how? Remember the payload? The back bed? Well, that's right. This thing can hold 1,800 pounds in the back bed. Towing capacity is rated at 4,000, while it has 17 miles per gallon in the city and 23 in the highway. Yeah, this thing's a real competitor. It'll blow your socks off. So now it all makes sense why they had this widened grille right here. They had to give the car more power. Makes total sense. Oh, before I forget, I want to make a few things clear here. This is the Gladiator Sport. That's why it has these plastic bumpers. This is plastic. Fog lamps on the bottom, and these lights, they're not LED, obviously, right? See on the Sport, there's also no gap that they usually have on the Rubicon. It kind of looks cheap, but it still gets the job done. You've got some towing things here in the front, right? So you know it's still serious business. But you've also got a few other things here. For example, this hood has these devices here. Do you know what they're for? To spray the windshield, of course, and also capture the windshield when it falls. Why would it fall? Because the windshield comes off, because it's a Jeep pickup truck, Gladiator, 4x4, convertible. This thing can do everything. Anything that you can do, it can do better. Just remember that, all right? Oh, and I almost forgot. Let's talk about the tires. Okay, so this is the Gladiator Sport, and these are 17-inch tires on these rims. But did you know that these are not the stock Wrangler 17-inch rims? These are actually reinforced rims designed special for the Gladiator. You know what else is special about this Gladiator? The iconic little Jeep that's down here too. That's right. This thing's a part of the family. Now, since this is the Sport, it doesn't have that big clearance that the Rubicon has, but it does have some good clearance for maybe slightly larger tires. I mean, it's entirely up to you if you want to put larger tires on here and lift it, maybe put some Fox shocks. That's right, because the Rubicon has Fox shocks. This does not, because it's just a Sport. And did I mention it costs around $35,000, which is a good competitor for the Toyota Tacoma, which I feel is its direct competitor. Now moving on here, this rivet. Now I covered this in a previous video, but this rivet is actually for sound deadening. It removes some of the buffeting from wind, not from the off-road, but for the on-road experience. Good thinking, Jeep. Taking a step over here, you'll notice the trail rated badges, the Jeep, and the Gladiator, all on the side. Seems very familiar, not gonna lie. Then you have these doors. That's right, these doors. Do you know what's different about these doors? These doors are actually aluminum. And so is this windshield. It's actually aluminum. There's a specific reason for that. Because these parts are detachable and Jeep wanted to make sure that you or I could possibly take them off, they wanted them to be as light as possible. And that's why these composites are aluminum. I don't know about the rest of the car, so don't ask me. So let's get a little serious on this part right here. because this is the Jeep Gladiator. Oh, I'm sorry, I keep going in and out with being serious and not being serious, but come here, I'm gonna teach you something. You see these rear view mirrors? They're heated, but that's not what I'm gonna talk to you about at all. That has nothing to do with what I'm gonna talk to you about. These rear view mirrors are actually the same ones, get this, from the Wrangler. And now normally that wouldn't be much of a problem, right? It's parts bin special Jeep and all that. But see, it actually is a big problem for this car. Truck, Jeep, 4x4, convertible. It's a huge problem. Do you know why? Why don't you stay right there for a second? You see me backing up? Can you see me? This is the problem right here. This right here is the problem. Because since this vehicle is longer and has the same mirrors, you get more blind spots. So this would be the part where I kind of say good thinking Jeep, but I'm gonna say no, not good thinking Jeep. You need bigger mirrors here. You do. Okay, so I talked to you about the mirrors, and I want to break one more thing to you. And I hope this doesn't disappoint you, but there's one other thing. You see this door? Yeah, I know it's aluminum, but do you see this line right here? Wrangler door. Yeah, it's a Wrangler door. And it's really a shame because actually when the Jeep developers talked about this truck, they said that its entire chassis was developed from scratch. But no shame on them. They're actually being nice to you. But you see how I misled you and made you feel like they did something wrong to you just by the tone of voice? They were actually doing something great for you because the fact that they use this Wrangler door makes it more cost effective for you. So when you get into an accident, you break your door, you lose your door, the door flies off because you're going off-roading. It's, you know, cheaper to replace than if they had made a specific door just for this Gladiator truck, 4x4 convertible. So speaking of the doors, do you know what's missing from here? That Jeep aftermarket or possibly factory stepper. That's why these rivets are here. When you get in your car or a truck, convertible, whatever, you want to be able to step on something. And that's not here. Because this is the Sport Gladiator, not the Rubicon. But we're about to head to the back, but before we do, I'd like you to take a look at this gas cap. Do you see anything about it? Right here. No E85, but actually that image right there is of a truck. Jeep went out of their way to place a sticker here to give you directions on how to put gas, and no E85. They also put a sticker of a truck. And being that they don't normally make trucks, but yet they went out of their way to print a sticker for you that has a truck, shows they care. And that's why this thing has a lot of Easter eggs, because they care about you. Good thinking, Jeep. Seriously. Follow me back here past this tire with the little Jeep logo on it. Follow me back here. I'm going to show you something really great in this moment. Come on. We're going to talk about this. Did I get your attention there? Are you awake or did you fall asleep while watching this video? I hope not, because I just revved that really asthmatic exhaust at you. That's right, that high-pitched droning sound was the exhaust. You might want to get some aftermarkets on this thing. Not much of a Gladiator if you can't make some noise, right? That's not why I actually brought you back here. I was just bringing you back here just to be funny. But before I tell you about this, I need to make an appeal to your emotions right now. What I need from you is to go ahead and like and subscribe. Now you don't have to if you don't want to. See, I put a lot of extra work in here and I'm working really hard to bring you these videos because I want to deliver something to you. I want to give back to you guys. But what I need from you guys is actually to subscribe so I can continue making videos and maybe like. And if you could do me one more big favor, when you subscribe, I want you to comment and say, hey, I subscribe. So that way I can shout you out or maybe like your comment because I want to interact with you guys. I really do care what you think. So if you have something bad to say, please write it because I want to know if I made a mistake. And if you have something good to say, please let me know too. And if you don't like the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs down too. That's fine by me. But I want to interact with you guys because I care. You see this key right here? It says Jeep on it. There's actually something about this madness right here that makes all sense. And I'm going to show you the common theme that you didn't know this Jeep had involving this key. But let's start in the back of this Jeep truck. You can actually lock your back. The back bed, that is, tailgate. You can lock it. And you can unlock it. Yeah, you can do all that. And this key works. This is now locked. Now, what does that have to do with any of this? Well, there's a tonneau cover that comes for the Gladiator. You can order it through the Jeep's website or equip it at the dealer. Now, the tonneau cover spreads clear across the bed of the truck, which, by the way, is 5 feet long. And with this dropped, is actually 6.5 feet long. And the tonneau cover has the ability to partly open so you can stick things in without fully unwrapping it. And guess what? It's cloth. It's not metal. So it's got a cloth mesh, so it matches better with the whole setup here. You know, it just might be something you want to get if you want to keep things secure and have this lock, which is placed here, make any sense for you? Just a thought. Before I move on and drop this tailgate, I wanted to point out to you that here we do have the new style lights that stick out, which are of course to house the lane departure warning system. That is also on the Wrangler. That's why they bubble out like that. We've got these off-roading hitches here in case you want to do some serious damage. You've got your tow instruments, whatever you might want to tow. You've got your sport badge, your reflectors, the asthmatic exhaust that I just demonstrated to you, and a camera, a rear-facing camera. Now, that's not really a big deal, but when you're going off-roading, you're gonna need it. Now, dropping this tailgate, you notice the box in the back. Looks really good. A lot of attention to detail was put into this box. Right here, that is a lovely light that illuminates the bed at night. And also, if you just want it illuminated right now, it's fine. Right here in this section right here, there would be some plug. So you can plug in some things like maybe a TV or, you know, a toaster or something. So in case you want to camp out, you've got a plug there, right? And you've got mounted, welded into the Gladiator itself, you've got these little hitches inside so you can strap things down. They went out of their way to do all this stuff, but do you know what else they went out of their way to do when building this truck? You see, this bed sits lower, much lower than the average bed, and that's for a reason. The engineers wanted to make sure that when you were going off-road and looking through the back of the window, you could see what was happening, because going off-road is dangerous. Another thing that the engineers went out of their way to do was make sure that this bed sits lower than a normal bed to ensure that you're able to load things easier. So there isn't that giant step that you need to take or that giant leap. You can actually just simply toss things in very simply and easily. Good thinking, Jeep. Thank you. And see, speaking of being able to see out the back, check out this cool little window. Yeah, can you see it? Too much? Sorry. Don't forget to like and subscribe. So now we're about to get inside of the Jeep Gladiator. But before we do that, we need to take a look at the door. This door right here. Notice that it's very sturdy and rubberized. There's a reason for that. This thing is designed to get wet and go through all terrain. And it's also designed to come off. And do you see anything else? There's no window switch on here. I'll explain that in a minute. But even crazier than that, they went out of their way to put a little child here with a lock and unlock. A lock and unlock, and there's a little child. Yeah, that I don't really know where I was going with that, but there is this net that you can store stuff in, you know, assuming that you're going off-roading or on-roading or have children in here. And also, underneath here, there is the ability for you to grip the door, so when you remove it, it's easier. Yeah, a lot of good things about Jeep right now. Let's come and take a look inside. But before you get in there, I gotta show you something. This key. I'll explain in a second. So now that I have your attention with this switchblade, I mean Jeep key, it actually connects directly into here, and there's another lock. You can lock and unlock the seat. That doesn't really make any sense, because it doesn't make any sense. That's a lock, but it's for lock for storage, which I'll show you right now. Now, the moment I've been waiting for to show you the secret about this Jeep. You see this? Yeah, there's storage underneath here. So you can put all kinds of stuff. And it doesn't stop there. You see, this is a 60-40 split bench. It does the same thing over here. But on this side, there's a few other extra things I gotta show you, which I'll tell you about once you come over here. So now that I brought you over to the other side of the car, I want you to take a good look at this. Yeah, this side has some equipment. Well, I know that there's this box here, which I don't really want to go into because I don't really know what it does. But on this side, apparently there's a screw holder, and apparently it holds the screws for the doors, the windshield, and I guess the doors. Oh yeah, and this cover right here, this roof cover. Because guess what? This Jeep actually comes apart completely from top to bottom. Yeah, this thing comes off and becomes a complete convertible. I hope you didn't think for a second that Jeep would go out of their way to make something not fully convertible. That just wouldn't make any sense, and it wouldn't be Jeepy of them to do. So now that I showed you that the bottom could open, well, guess what the top can do? It folds down. Now, why would it fold down? Well, guess what? Car seats. That's right. You could put some car seats in here, or get access to this storage back here to hide things if you need to hide them. Since this all comes off, you can figure out that I have nothing left to tell you, except maybe when you come over to the other side again. I have another item to show you, but since we got the Sport Edition, not the Rubicon, and it's an option, I don't have this particular piece of equipment. But what normally would go in that little pocket that I just showed you is, get this, a waterproof Bluetooth speaker that comes from the Jeep. That's right. It comes out of the Jeep, and you can use it when you're camping, partying, going to the beach, doing whatever, and it recharges inside the Jeep. It even comes with some little holes on it, so that way you can hang it from a tree if you wanted to, according to Jeep, that is. So we're in the back seat of this Jeep. I know there's a lot of 90s and 80s songs that start like this. You might be wondering what I'm implying. What I'm implying is this. We're in the back seat of this Jeep, and the switches for the windows are right here. The structure, skeleton of it, has speakers for audio when you go off-roading or have the top off or whatever it might be. There's some creature comforts, more storage behind the seats, air conditioning vents that swivel, moderate headroom because I'm not that tall. I think it's pretty good headroom, I'd say. Some grab handles, you know, for getting in and out of the car. That's why they're there like that, right? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe you could put some laundry or hang a shirt, for all I know. But you know what impressed me the most? This right here. You see, Jeep didn't have a place to put the dome light, and they still wanted to give you the ability to turn on lights in this car. So they put some lights right here, which you could turn off and on, and a dome light. This has the plastic on it. I don't really want to take that off. I kind of want to leave it in its original wrapping for aesthetic purposes, of course. The material back here, though, if you notice, it's nice cloth, ready to be washed in case you get mud all over it. or ice cream or boogers from little kids, because this is a family car, of course, besides being a truck, an SUV, a 4x4, a Jeep, a Gladiator, it's all those things. And you know what? Starting at $35,000 for the Sport, it's not a bad thing to own, right? Now, before we get inside the car, I had to come back to the back because I really had to drive this point home. You see this third brake light here? It's on the tailgate. Do you know why that is? Because this Jeep Gladiator, the roof, it comes off. Everything comes apart. You simply unscrew things in the back, detach the rear defroster, and you could take it off. You could take off everything in this car. So in order to meet the safety standards that are required, Jeep put the third brake light on the tailgate, which made sense, but it does cause one small problem for you. Now that it's on the tailgate, if you are a bicyclist and want to put a bicycle rack back here, guess what? You're going to be blocking your third tail light and breaking the law, which is very bad. You can get some aftermarket stuff. That's why when you go to Jeep.com or Jeep Mopar or accessories, they're not going to sell you a bike rack for this Jeep because they don't want you to break the law. But I just thought I'd bring that up to you in case you cyclists who are super obsessed with this Jeep Gladiator 4x4 truck convertible really want one. So sitting in front of this Jeep, you start to notice that it's really iconic. I mean, obviously there's a Jeep logo here. There is the Jeep gear select shifter for four-wheel drive. You got two-wheel drive high, four-wheel drive high, neutral, and four-wheel drive low. Usually there'd be a button here somewhere for the rear locking differential, but again, this is just a Sport Gladiator. And since it's the Sport Gladiator, it has a Gladiator logo on the shift knob, which is actually a Gladiator, not a Jeep. So you could definitely take a look at that. The window switches, just like in every other Jeep of this year and this time and this model, are right in the center, so you can roll them up and down. You've got these nice swivelly AC vents, which close and open and look really great and stylish. You've got a comfortable seating position. You sit straight, you look out straight. You've got a good flat dashboard, so it's kind of commanding view of what's in front of you. And that's really important when you're going off-roading or driving to Baskin-Robbins to get ice cream for your kids. Or maybe going to Home Depot to haul some lumber in your Jeep that's actually a truck. You may need to save gas, and for that, you have this gas saving button right here, which toggles the on and off systems for the engine. So when you come to a stop, the car will shut off. And when you take off, you simply press the gas and the car will turn on and you're able to move forward. Not really anything out of this world, but it does make you wonder, wow, Jeep has really gone out of their way to be functional on-road and off-road. They're staying true to themselves, but they're adapting, which is what we all need to do. Now the center media unit here, it's really basic. I'm not even going to go into this. This isn't the luxury infotainment system with all the goodies on it. It has the radio feature, the media ability, the stereo system that is moderate. It doesn't have a really enticing, crazy setup here because this isn't the Jeep iconic head unit that they usually have, or media control unit that people now say, wow, this is impressive. This is nothing. But it's not bad. You do get a compass on it, and it does display that I'm facing south. There's some things in there. But one interesting thing that you might not have noticed is that there are several control buttons here, which obviously do many things. But there's also some buttons back here. And that's right. These are media control buttons. And they're right on the back of the steering wheel, and not many people know about them. But did you know something? Jeep, Dodge, Chrysler has been doing this since the 90s. They had these buttons back here since the 90s. My Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo with the inline 6 and the 190 horsepower engine had these buttons. Yeah, all the way back in like 2001. That's crazy, man. But they're still doing it. And it just goes to show you the company's not afraid to stick with things that work or sticking with familiarity or iconic looks. They give you something really exclusive and really iconic, and they're not afraid to do it or show it. And that's why I think the Jeep Gladiator will work for you over a Tacoma, or perhaps maybe even a Chevy Colorado, but that's up to you. Now let's go take a drive. All right, before we get to the drive, there's actually a few more things that I forgot to mention. Number one on the list, the door. When this door closes, this little strap actually rubs up against your leg a little bit. Not a big fan of it. Something else, no power seats on this sport model Gladiator that goes in all weather. So a lot of the equipment is straps. There's a lot of straps everywhere, people. So just beware of that before you buy one. Now let's go for a ride. Okay, so driving the Jeep Gladiator Sport. You know, initially, I gotta tell you, I kind of prefer this over the Wrangler. And it's gonna sound weird, because you could definitely feel the sway of the back bed a little bit more than a normal Wrangler, or I should say, than a normal Jeep. I do like this a little bit better. My main reason for liking this one a little bit better is because I think the V6 has a little bit more pep in the step than the 4-cylinder turbo. I mean, it's not much, but it just feels slightly more alive. Another thing that I like about this is that when you brake, this car feels a little bit lighter. Or I should say this truck feels a little bit lighter, because it is a truck, right? And a convertible and a 4x4. It feels a little bit lighter, and it feels, for that reason, a little bit tighter when you're making turns. I don't really know how they're doing this. It's some sort of witchcraft or magic, but it's definitely feeling a little bit better to drive, at least for me. And it might have something to do with maybe the fact that it has the sport model rims, and maybe the last Wrangler that I drove was the Willys Jeep, and that wasn't all that, you know, sporty. So maybe this has a little bit more sport in it. Getting on the freeway and accelerating, I just pushed the accelerator to 70 miles an hour. One thing that I did want to point out to you is that while I'm driving, even though all the components in this car come apart, and you can literally take this whole thing apart, can you hear that? Can you hear it? Can you hear anything? You know what you don't hear? There's no creaking. Now, I've been in other cars, and I actually own a car that's significantly more complicated, more expensive, whatever, yada yada, luxury car, and there's creaks in that car. I was actually doing a review on a Mercedes last week, and that car had some creaks. An off-road Jeep Gladiator, no creaks, smooth sailing. How did they do that? How did they do that? And you know, I think they did it because they've been exposed for so many years on trying to make vehicles stable while driving off-road that they figured out exactly how to keep it silent in here. And I think they did a really good job. You can really trust a company that sends things off-road and conquers the wilderness and does it all without getting you stuck in the mud. You could also trust a company that produces cars but then sends things into the moon. I'm not going to name names, but you know, like Tesla, they're just ahead of the game because they send stuff into the space. And these people are ahead of the game because they send things into the wilderness. So if you've got $35,000 and you're looking for an exciting toy that's not a Tacoma, and quite frankly stands out in a league of its own, and something that has four-wheel drive. Oh, and by the way, did I mention the best part? Has excellent resale value. Pick up a Jeep Gladiator. I'm almost convinced to pick up one myself. And I'm not just saying it because I'm reviewing it. I'm literally telling you that if I had the extra money and the space, I think I'd really enjoy owning or leasing this vehicle. And I think it would really prove to be a competent, capable truck, both on the road and off the road. Oh yeah, and did I mention it actually fits in my garage. So if I got rid of one of my cars, theoretically, I could park it in my garage. Just a thought. So I made it back home, parked the Gladiator in the garage. And just to recap, I definitely would buy this truck. I think it checkmarks all the boxes, in my opinion, of what a truck should be, a truck should do, and even teaches a valuable lesson on what a truck should look like, because this thing's thinking outside the box. And for those of you who might not understand, this is a mid-sized truck, not a full size. So it doesn't need to do a whole lot of towing or a whole lot of loading, but it can do some moderate stuff. And one last thing, in your face, in your face, fits in my garage. Sometimes you just got to give your Gladiator some go. Just floor it. You want that engine to kick in. Yeah, Gladiator! 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 On to me!